Good morning. Good morning, Gemma, Ivory Lady, Pippin Mike Stevens, Kitty Coo. Good morning to everyone and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026. I hope we all had a pleasant holiday, New Year's. You were able to stay safe. For me, not bad. I mean, uneventful. We went to Seattle for New Year's, and they're getting in and over the going over the pass to Seattle from my house. Not bad at all. Coming back, it was snowing pretty darn good. We got stuck in it behind some giant, traffic jam after an accident for a while, but can't complain overall. We got there safe and sound and back as well. But we went to go see the fireworks and light show at the Space Needle in Seattle. Spent New Year's with your sister's house with her twins. So that sounds like a great time, Gemma. And Happy New Year to you, Kitty Q, and everyone else. Here's to a safe and happy New Year. Today's, as you see the scroll going by, is about Philip Jablonski, serial killer, convicted of killing 5 women in California and Utah between 1978 and 1991, I believe. That's scrolling by there. But Jablonski, they know that he probably committed closer to 10 actual murders, but they only had enough evidence, concrete evidence, to convict him of the 5. The Space Needle, going over there, and it was hit or miss. We had really heavy fog, so you couldn't really see a lot of. You could see the fireworks. I mean, obviously it was very bright, but they also had a drone light show. But there were like 3 or 4 different things total. But we got there just as the first like laser light show was happening. We actually stayed in Tukwila. We got to meet. We went up there. It was me, my wife, my daughter, my son, and then we met uh, other family members. My wife's dad and her stepdad. We met them there as well, and we got to go to Capitol Hill, to a couple of places that we follow. Like creators we follow online who follow me as well. We got to go see and visit them, who have businesses in the Capitol Hill district. That was pretty cool. Allah Akbar, Mike. Yes, remember to be on all messages or live messages, not top chat. Remember that. Everyone, kitty cats. It was pretty cool though. Like I was saying earlier a little bit. We went to Capitol Hill, and there's a couple of different YouTube creators who follow my content, and I follow theirs, and I got to actually go hang out and visit them at their businesses because they were open. That was the day after New Year, so January 1st, so 2 days ago. Well, thank you for sharing it out, Gemma. I appreciate it. I wish other people would click on share. It's free to do it. And never know who you might see more of your friends or followers. Here. Oh, oh! I knocked over my little dragon. Yeah, he's supposed to be an alligator. Alligator dragon is what it was listed as when I bought it online. Anyways. All right, let's get the page 2 news going. Page 2 news. This is the 289th episode of Page 2 News. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Now with 1.5% more static and less care for monkeys today. Shout out to all the supporters who supported this content last week. Gemma, Planter23, and Daniel M. Thank you very much for your support last week. And additionally to everyone who watched my streams last week. Viewer discretion is strongly advised for what I'm about to cover on this live stream and all content that I put out on this channel. This morning's show and Crime Recap strictly adheres to verified factual evidence. All information presented here from sources of reputable agencies such as the FBI, Department of Justice, and when applicable, Interpol and Scotland Yard. We do not engage in conspiracy theories, speculations, or unverified claims about what may have occurred. If you are looking for that type of content, this program will not be the right fit for you. Thank you for your understanding and good morning, Juicy Jules. Saturday, cold weather in Washington, Colorado too. Yes, they're actually calling for a chance of snow here today. It is currently right now 34 degrees. This is the first story. It is slam dunk attempted murder. This is an update on a case that I covered this past year. Jalen White threw his baby against the wall because he was losing at NBA 2K. That, ladies and gentlemen, that is a video game. He was losing at the video game and picked up his son and threw him against a wall. He now learns his fate. Jalen White, 22, pled guilty to physical abuse of a child and neglect of a child. That was his plea bargain down from attempted murder. The Wisconsin piece of shit was sentenced for throwing his 8-month-old son at a wall because he was losing at a video game and was sentenced to 12 years in prison on Tuesday, December 30th. Jalen White pled guilty to physical abuse of a child, reckless causing great bodily harm, and neglect of a child. Consequences is greatly bodily harm, according to the Milwaukee County Prosecutor's Office. He is also facing 7 years of extended supervision after he gets released. It is really sad and a really horrible situation. White's defense attorney, Annette Rausch, tells the Associated Press News Service. He took full accountability for everything that happened. Not exactly. I'll get into it, though. Obviously, it's incredibly remorseful and very sorry to his family and the child's mother and her family as they are dealing with the fallout. He sent his condolences to them, as well as hoping that they, when he finishes his sentence, he'll be able to return to society a better person overall. No charges were filed against the mother, who knew from repeated events that Jalen could become violent when he was losing at video games. The day of the event, a neighbor called in the report of a loud crash and crying child. When they heard the crash against a shared wall between the two apartments, Police discovered a perfect indentation in the wall the size of the child that day. Sorry doesn't cut it. Leaving your child with a violent repeat offender isn't acceptable. Where was the mom during this event? She was getting her hair and nails done. She shared no remorse that day in court. Allegedly, this is the information that is online for the according to the Milwaukee Sentinel and what I found online. This is alleged. I cannot confirm this is the same Jalen White. I repeat, I cannot confirm that. It only matches the same age and demographic, race, and other key factors. But there is a Jalen White in Wisconsin that has the following, charges that have been brought in convictions: possession of stolen property, 3 counts of assault, battery, assault and battery. Those were dropped. Drug possession, 2nd degree with intent to sell. That was an actual conviction, along with probation violation, a conviction. Trespassing, 1st degree, pled down to entering a dwelling with no authorization, and domestic violence no contact order violation, which was dropped. The 3 counts of assault and the domestic violence no contact order violation against the Jalen White that is listed with from the what I found in the background check were from the same situation, same case. That Jalen White in that situation and arrest where the charges were dropped assaulted not only a female that was not, the name was not disclosed, but assaulted 2 additional females that tried to stop the domestic violence situation. All of those charges, the 3 counts of assault and battery and the domestic violence no contact order, were dropped because the witness, the person who was actually assaulted, did not show up for court and refused to help with the actual prosecution in that case. So the prosecution did not go forward with it. They dropped the charges on those 4. Again, this is alleged that this is the same individual. I Killed the Candyman is next. At age 17, he killed the Candyman, who murdered at least 29 boys. Then he confessed to helping the serial killer. Elmer Wayne Henley was briefly considered a hero after the fatal shooting serial killer Dean Corll and saved the lives of 2 teenagers. On August 8, 1973, Dean Corll was shot to death in his Texas home at the age of 33. At the time of his death, Corll had raped, tortured, and murdered at least 29 victims, nearly all of whom teenage boys who lived in and around the Houston area or were traveling through the area. There were about to be 2 additional victims that very same day, where if it were not for 17-year-old Elmer Wayne Henley, who fatally shot Corll as he was preparing to murder a teenage boy and girl who had been lured to the home one night prior. Henley explained that he had been drawn to Corll's orbit by a friend, David Brooks. Corll had been close to Brooks since the boy was about 12 years of age, and Brooks and other boys in the area had a fondness for Corll because he worked at his mother's candy store. Henley said that he robbed houses at first for Corll, who would pay him for each job in cash and candy. Corll later offered him $200 for every boy he could bring in. Henley testified, so the teenager began bringing acquaintances to the home. In total, he remembered bringing 30 young men and boys to the home. Most left because Coral said they were nasty and dirty, filthy. Oop. Eventually, Henley learned that Coral was murdering the boys, and he soon began to participate in the day-long torture sessions with the serial killer who would become known as the Candyman. I feel remorse because I'm supposed to. That's something I've tried to build in me. I don't really feel about it. I wish I hadn't done it. I'm glad I got over with telling. I'm glad now I'm not hiding it, waiting, and Dean ain't out there killing little kids. But as far as any emotion to it, there's no heartfelt emotion. I spent the last 50 years behind bars. I will never get out of here. There's something there that's something I have to deal with, but should have a chance of being released someday. Dean Coral is ranked number 34 by Crime Writers of America in 2009. That is the last year that the Crime Writers of America took the actual rankings of serial killers, was in 2009, and he was ranked 34 on the list. Tomorrow night's trivia to start off 2026 is on the creepy clown, John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy is tomorrow night's trivia subject. And that's it. That's the only two that I have for this week. Now, if you want to watch the Henley thing, you can watch. I think you can find it on Netflix, and you can definitely find it on Prime. The documentary of the conversations with him from prison, but he goes into a little bit more detail about the actual convictions, and working with the Candyman Dean Coral. Now back to the piece of shit who threw his son almost through the wall. The indentation of his 8-month-old boy was just happened to be, he got lucky, and it was between two studs in the living room wall. The indentation made a bulge on the other side of the sheetrock in the apartment next door, and on the inside of that apartment, the child went through the sheetrock and the insulation and almost through the wall itself because he was losing at a video game. He doesn't have any real remorse. His only remorse is that he got caught for what he did. And this is apparently, from some people, again, this is alleged that he had been violent towards other friends and other people, not just children, in the past when losing at a video game. And the girlfriend knew about it. She left the child with him while she again went to go get her hair and nails done that day. Some people don't deserve to have children. And remember, in America and around the world, anyone can have a child, but you have to have a license to catch a fish. Well, they wouldn't. What would early humans, Neanderthals, do with people like the guy who abused his son? They would have killed him. You can't hurt them. Think about Neanderthal, and early humanoids. The survival of the group was number one. And if you hurt or abused or killed or did anything else to other members of the group, they got rid of you. They just beat you with a club or whatever, a rock. Got rid of you. Gemma, I'm planning to record my goals for 2026 video. That should be interesting. I don't do New Year's resolutions. What about everybody else? Do you make New Year's resolutions? Do you have a list of things that you know, like a bucket list of things you want to accomplish in 2026? I have things that I want to accomplish, but I mean, I lay out a plan. It's not a New Year's resolution. I have, you know, a 1 year plan, a 5 year plan, and a 10 year plan. But I don't make New Year's resolutions though. Not necessarily New Year's resolutions, just ideas, goals I want to do. There you go. Yeah. No, but I do think about things I want to do. Well, you'll never accomplish them unless you make a plan. Pick a goal, Kitty Q, and anybody else out there. If there's something you want to accomplish, you have to start off, write it out, and then make a plan to accomplish the actual goal. That's the only way you're ever going to do it. You're not going to wake up tomorrow afternoon and be in better physical health or whatever your goal may be, or you're not going to wake up tomorrow and someone's going to invite you to jump out of an airplane if your goal is to, go skydiving. Also, I got a 10-year celebration video I'm doing too. Well, good. I have to get on it. I have a list. I think there's like 14 videos that I've made that are still in the editing. I have to get on them though. I mean, hell, I got time today. Certainly, I'm not going golfing today in the snow. It's actually 33 degrees now. It's not getting warmer. It's getting colder. It's down to 33 and not 34. But some things everyone's going to notice though, here coming up very shortly is there's a change to trivia night. Most of it is a change in how it's actually visually, seen. I try to keep it as close to the same, but there's a structural difference. The questions are a little bit different. They're also ranked, but there's definitely changes coming starting this week for my content, my channel. But you have to make changes. Trying to do the same thing over and over again is the basically the definition of insanity, to do the same thing and expect a different outcome. David Wu, I have not heard what the official cause of death for David was. So sorry, Francie. I saw that there's a giant billboard in Los Angeles. I'm not sure who paid for it. Was it German in Venice who may have had part of it? I don't know for sure, but that's at least what I've heard from inside of other groups, that that the German in Venice, another YouTube creator, may have had part of paying for that billboard. Lemon pie. Good morning. I like the addition of news clips of the stories at the time. Gonna try to do a lot more of those. It all comes down to copyright in the end. You would, and I know that a lot of people are going to probably be a little bit surprised by this, and you should be. But a lot of older newscasts and archival footage has been snagged up by these different, groups of people who say that they are the copyright holder for it. And for in order to get a release, and prove that they're not the original manufacturer or maker or a copyright holder of the content, it's a battle. I mean, and that's for everything from video, audio, still photos. I mean, it's all a game because they're hoping that somebody will use that little clip, and then what YouTube and Facebook and other sites like, not TikTok don't care, but Instagram or wherever it may be posted, they're hoping that they can, if they have a copyright claim for it. And what these sites do is I get paid through AdSense, people watching the videos, at 8/10 of a cent per view. Doesn't matter if it's a second or if it's a minute and a half or 4 hours. 8/10 of a cent. What these people do is they claim this stuff, and if they have a copyright hold for it, YouTube does what they call revenue sharing. If they own the copyright, say like I make a video that is 1 minute long, and I have a 60-second video in there, that is in there that they have the copyrights for, they get the 60%, I get the 40% of that 8/10 of every single person who watches it. And then at any whim of theirs, they can ask for, a takedown or removal of the copyright, material. It's all a game. And good morning, Short Nice. Are you going to do a follow up to any the upcoming 2026 trials? I don't have any plan right now, Short Nights, but I have other content that updates on cases that I've already covered where trials may be coming up down the road. I definitely have a Karen Reed video that is I've already shot. I just have to finish editing it. I know that one's in there. I just remembered to put chat on all. Oh no, I'm sorry. I should have said it again. Everybody make sure you're on all chat, not top. All chat or live chat. It happens. I don't. Why is there even an option for that? I can understand it defaulting to top chat when you're watching a rewind, but when you're watching live, you should think that the chat would be live with the chat, so they sync up. I don't know why they've never changed that. Always wondered that myself. It's not that hard. You just don't make it any other thing in an option. You just say, okay, it's live video. Here's a live chat. And then once it's being watched in rewind later on, you default it to top, or, because obviously it's not going to be live. But that's YouTube, and one of the many little intricacy, things about it that don't make a whole lot of sense to the viewers or the creators. It's just like anytime you have a advertisement, product placement in a video, you can make the video, insert the ad, and they'll tell you where it's best to put it in the actual video itself. And for views and for people who are going to watch it and not tune out, YouTube will tell you all that, but they leave it up to you to click a box every single time that tells you that you have an ad placement in the video. Before you even get done, it tells you where the best place to place your ad is. And then after that, you have to click a box. Yes, there's an ad. Why don't they just click that box for you? They already know, and they're giving you the suggestions on where to put the ad. Morning, Reichardt. Welcome to 2026, Reichardt. I hope you're doing well wherever you are in America. You want us to have full communication. Friends, they're jelly. We have friends. That might be it. Your favorite people. Here's the Reichardt, and welcome to 2026. And to everyone else out there, insanity. The world is going insane, and I'm along for the trip. Can't get off this roller coaster? Just sit back and wait and watch where it's going to go. That was one of the reasons why we for New Year's we stayed in Tukwila, because Tukwila Renton area is actually closer. One of my wife's we call them the dads, her dad and then her stepdad. But her stepdad is a long haul truck driver, and the company he works for, on New Year's Eve, he parked his truck there because it was easier for him to get back to the warehouse where their trucks are. I don't want to mention the name of the company, but I'm sure you all seen that the logo and the letters of the company out there. But my channel turned 10 next week. Wow. My first year that I was out on the road on this 2026 New Year's Eve. Wow. $10 speaking of that, though, the Taco Podcast, I mean, I don't know if we're ever going to do anything with it ever again. Just turned 6 years old, like a couple days ago. Got that little announcement on the dashboard. Your channel is 6. It grows up fast. Something like that, is what it said. No, doesn't work for Swift, Reichardt. Starts with an X. I'm sure you've seen the trucks. No, he used to work for Yellow before Yellow, pretty much went beep beep and then filed bankruptcy. Now he's working for another company, but they do a lot more long haul. And then he has another friend that he works for that does state to state, the longer distances instead of shorter distances. What do they call it? Last mile delivery. I think that's kind of like what he does most of the time, because he stays pretty much Washington, California, Oregon, Utah, New Mexico. He works that region, and then when he goes east, he is working for another company in a completely different truck. Other drivers out there, right along with me, felt the brotherhood love. Do you think Karen Reed will win her civil suit? I don't know, Short and Nice. There's a chance that, especially with the issues with it does. This is just my opinion, but I think that they based on the evidence that was there, not counting the inappropriate behavior with the police and everything else, but just the evidence that they had. I think they over prosecuted her by going for the murder charge. They could have gone with involuntary, or something along that, but going the direction that they did, try to make an example out of her. Yeah, I think that she has a chance there. Now, you don't in a civil trial, you just have to prove by you don't have to have a preponderance of evidence. You have to prove more than likely, to win in a civil case. If I have to put a percentage on it, I'd say she's probably at a 70% chance that she's going to win, and probably an 85% chance that they're just going to settle. They're just going to say, here's a number, put it on a piece of paper. Will you take this and go the hell away? Lots of trucking companies are going bankrupt here. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's hard to make a buck out there when they want it. The supplier wants it shipped cheaper and cheaper. And when the cost to do the trucking is up here, and they want to pay down here, how are you going to stay in business as an owner operator or working for a company underneath their insurance and their driving their vehicles? It sucks. And well, the more that close down, that all that's going to do is increase the cost even more. You got some pretty cool shit though when Yellow went bankrupt and they started selling off their assets. We got I mean, not me personally, but other members of our family got some really great deals on stuff that was being sold off at auction. A friend of mine got, was one of those stand-up forklifts. He needed it for his construction site for his laydown yard. He got one of those. It's all concreted indoors, but it's well, I wouldn't call it. I guess you could call it indoor. It's the top and the sides, but both ends this way. You can just drive a truck right through. There's no ends on either end of it. But it's all building materials. But he got one of those stand-up forklift things for like not even half the price of what it would cost for a used one. Will, have you considered being a private investigator? Is there a decent living job? I wonder. No, I've never considered it, Francie. I do know people who have worked in the industry, and being a PI. About 90% of the work that they do is investigating, infidelity, but and doing background checks on potential, like this person's dating my daughter, do a background check on them. But that was about most of what they do. I don't know anybody who does investigative work, kind of like what I do, looking into people's criminals' backgrounds. Per se, some they may dabble a little bit here and there, as part of an overall job. I'm surprised I've been on here for 10 years. I never thought I'd be on here that long, but I'm proud I'm still here and still sharing my journey with you all. I am glad you're here as well. I never in my life, Gemma, thought that I would be here even one day. If you asked me back when I first started the channel and I made my first video, that was all I wanted to do was just set the record straight. That's it. I, again, to give you all a little bit of background on it, my friend was murdered. And me and my other friend, John, we wanted to go to the parole hearing and make sure that that asshole never got out of prison. And I wanted to do a little bit of, because it had been 15 years, I think, later. I wanted to go and, I wanted to refresh my memory of some of the cases. I mean, I was there from the time the asshole who murdered my friend, I didn't know he murdered him, but he came to my house and wanted to hide in my basement. All right. I was there from before the murder all the way through the case, every aspect of it. I was there for it all. I didn't miss a single day of that court hearing. None of it. And it was like a 5-week trial. But, anyways, I wanted to refresh my memory on it after, 15 years, before we went to the parole hearing to contest his release. And when I pulled up, I'm trying to do research through the archived newspapers and stuff like that, the information I wanted wasn't there. And then it kept on suggesting YouTube videos to me, in the research results, like, hey, watch this video. And I didn't want to. But I gave in. I said, I'm not finding it. Maybe it's in one of these videos these YouTube creators have made. And I clicked on it. And it was all lies. I mean, hell, there were people that made live streams back then and made hundreds of dollars in donations, that came into them over lies. They just, I don't know where they got it from. They had to make it up completely. They had the basic facts, but then they took one little tidbit and they extrapolated it out to, to be something a whole lot more than it ever was. And that's how I got here. I wanted to set the record straight. I made the video and no one watched it. Besides me clicking on it maybe a dozen times, I think maybe 4, maybe 6 people somewhere in there watched it or clicked on it. And it pissed me off that nobody was out there. And there's still a lot of, the content that's out on YouTube in the true crime, genre. People don't bother to, think for themselves. Just because this person told you something and this is how it happened, this is why it happened, and this is who was involved, how do you know that any of that's true? If you're not going to bother to do the, any of the research or look it up yourself, you're taking that person's word for it. And now if we take that person's word for it, we might as well listen to, Armchair Detective. I mean, it's no better example than that. He took this much real fact and made it into this. And then, convinced a bunch of, older pensioners, there to send to him every dime that they could so he could go gamble it, or spend it on other shit. But people still believe all this crap that he brought up. And it was based on that much fact. Only OJ gets away with murder. My uncle's a private detective. He goes into restaurants and busts people for fraud and other stuff. Oh, that's cool. No real gumshoes anymore. Francie, unfortunately, and this is something that a lot of people in America really should understand about mass media today in 2026, since we're beginning the year right now. When it comes to your newspapers, your television stations, your mainstream media, it has been gutted. There is nobody left, in there who is doing investigative journalism anymore. True, there may be a major station out there that has one, or 2 people who are doing actual investigative journalism, looking into things. There might be, and that I'm not talking about the Associated Press. That's a completely separate in a group who, by the way, is not allowed in the White House or anywhere near news briefings in the White House because Trump has decided he doesn't want them there. But that's a whole other story. But anyways, when it comes to like your major newspapers, your television stations, they farm 100% of that shit out to what they call independent, journalists, or maybe they call them strikers, or there's a whole bunch of different names for people. And the reason why they do it is they don't have to pay them benefits. They don't have to give them a 401k. They don't have to do anything. They give them a flat fee and they say, that's it. Do the work. This is what we're going to pay you for it. Where does your news come from? Let's say you live in Omaha, Nebraska. They're going to cover some local stories. And then when it comes to national stories or stuff that is bigger, they're going to take it from the Associated Press because they can pay the $6.95 a year to steal their story and then call it themselves and never give them credit for all the work that that individual did. That's the truth. Again, and when it comes to people, maybe there's a crime scene in Omaha. All right, since we're using that as an example, a car wreck, 15 cars and like 3 heads laying out on the freeway somewhere. Instead of being a cameraman, a reporter, and a sound engineer going out to it, they're going to send that one reporter. They got rid of 2 jobs immediately. Send a reporter. She's responsible or he's responsible for 100% of what they get. It makes the company, leaner and more profitable, and they can return an investment to the upper company that owns that station, and that pays the shareholders, a little bit more of a dividend down the road. And that's why. But at the same time, when you don't have investigative journalism and you don't have the people who are actually in the office anymore doing the work, it's so easy to skew the information one way or another. We're going to move everything this way. We're going to move everything this way. And then you end up with the right and the left, just like politics. And then these people are going to hate these people, and these people are going to hate these people. You're never going to get the whole story. You're going to get the highlights of the story. That's it for my rant on that, though. But that's what happened to American journalism. The days of the Edward R. Murrows doing the investigative reporting, that's gone. Now, at least not in the newsroom, they're gone. If you're never going to see a reporter sitting at a desk with 40 reporters and other people working their way up the ladder, doing stories behind them. That's all gone. Most newsrooms, your major newspapers, they've moved out of their offices to a smaller office because there's nobody in the building anymore. The U.S. Just arrested the Venezuelan president. Yeah, I read that. I read that not only the president but his wife as well. They boots on the ground attacks plus aerial attacks in Venezuela, and then they were actually captured and flown out of the country. And we do all this stuff without ever having to tell the Defense Department, having to talk to Congress or anybody else anymore. The rule book went out the window with those people who left. It's amazing how many people believe hearsay, third party talking. Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, my entire genre here on YouTube is just as guilty as every other one out there. Podcasting, that's like the next generation. I mean, it's currently on, next generation, and it's booming. Podcast is and podcasting is the largest growing area of media in the world, not just the United States, around the world. Podcasts. And people are getting their information about the local sports all the way to what's happening in Venezuela from podcasts. Oh yeah, he posted it on True Social, Kitty Q. Mamdani, the New York mayor. I didn't know you had to do that though. Did anybody watch that press announcement when he officially became mayor and he had to pay $9 to actually get the job? that was for his fee to become mayor of New York was $9. I mean, he spent a hell of a lot more than that to get elected, but to be official, he had to pay $9 and to be officially the mayor. I didn't know anybody had to do that though. I always research my facts for videos before I record anything, unless they are my own experience videos. That's true. I don't go on X hardly ever. Not myself anymore. I used to when it was Twitter. When it was Twitter, I used to be on Twitter a lot. I don't stream the Twitter anymore. I don't go on the platform anymore after Elon bought it, because my news feed has just become ads, just a ton of freaking ads for male enhancement pills. That's my feed. If it's not that, it's about how I could save X amount of money over a new Medicare plan. I don't have Medicare, but that's the ads they're constantly feeding. And if I'm not seeing that, I'm constantly getting hateful, one-sided political views thrown at me on X. He didn't buy it because he wants to keep free speech alive. Elon bought it because it's a massive write-off. And look what he did. He came in and he got rid of half of the staff that knew how to code or do anything. My brother has Trump derangement syndrome. He's going to get himself in trouble, I hope. I pay way more for my LLC, right? I have an LLC as well, Reichardt. I've had an LLC since I think year 2 that I've been here on YouTube. I protect myself. You can come after me if you don't like what I have to say, but I have free speech still, a little. You can't say anything and everything anymore. I mean, you never could yell fire in a movie theater, but you certainly can't say anything and everything anymore, because one political leader will go after you and sue you. My wife got into trouble over talking shit about a lady that was running for city council. That the lady actually banned her, and then she found out that she can't ban a constituent, so she had to allow her back. She had it coming. My brother has hatred for Trump, but I love to tell him I voted for Trump every time. You like to poke the cougar with a short stick there, Mike, or poke the bear with a short stick? Telling him, your brother who has the derangement syndrome, that you voted for Trump, poke him with the short stick. In the UK, we have what's called fair dealings law, which is free speech, but ours is restricted, unlike what you have freedom. You got freedom in America, but you got there's a fine line you can't cross. Trashy, creepy X. It's what it's become. Yeah, and a lot of people are not watching what's happening with YouTube, and I feel sorry for a lot of people out there that where you enjoy watching videos on YouTube. I feel really sorry for those who pay for to have ad block with YouTube, the premium service where you're not offered ads. I feel really sorry for you people. because they YouTube blocked outside external ad blockers. So now it even if you pay for it, they have to pay YouTube. You did vote for Trump every time? I did not vote for Trump in 2016. Who did I vote for in 2016? Yeah, it wasn't Biden. Who was it? I think it was. I some reason the first thing that comes to my mind is Mitt Romney, but I don't think it was Romney in 2016. But anyway, I didn't vote for him the last time either. But I'm not, I didn't vote for Harris and I didn't vote for Trump last time. You bought stock in Rumble? Only thing I don't like about some of these, sites like Rumble, Kitty Q, is, I want to see more viewers, more reach. I've been asked quite a few times to buy, not to buy, but to join these other platforms. I don't know. Maybe it'd be a best thing. Maybe I should really open up a TikTok, account and sell my soul to the devil. If it's all about winning, getting that, little plaque to put on the wall, maybe that's what I should do. Even though I messed up and voted for him. Yeah. We all have our views, and I don't care who anybody voted for. I really don't. I don't care if you're a diehard Republican and you vote down the party ticket every single time, and without caring or looking into the background of any of the of the candidates, and that's what you do. Or if you're a Democrat and you do the same thing, I don't really care. The way I vote is I always vote who I feel is going to do the best for the position that they're running for. Luckily, I live in a state that allows me to be able to vote either. I don't have to, register as a Democrat or Republican or independent. I can vote on any way I want. If I want to vote Republican for one office and Democrat for the next office on the ticket, I can. We don't have restrictions my state, in that aspect. It'd be hard pressed, Mike, to get a lot of people to agree with that one. Um, some people would say, Mike, can you name 3 things that he's done that is good for the United States? Since you brought up good and bad, like any president, can you name 3? Yeah, I'm sure you can. I mean, but yeah, true. I mean, there have been I would say most presidents, have their good and their bad, that for what they do for the country. But I'm a diehard Republican that only votes red, like you said. Well, I don't hold any ill will towards it. I also don't hold any ill will towards other, religions or ethnicities or sexual preferences. I mean, I live by the George Carlin rule, of life, and that's what I call it. There's no reason to be a racist. There's a perfectly good reason to hate each and every individual on an individual basis. And I look at that and I use that rule for myself for anything, politics, religion, sexual preference, whatever. There's no reason to be hatred. I can hate that what you're doing, just because of you or whoever. I'm not using you as an example, Mike. I'm just saying that there's a perfectly good reason to not like someone on an individual basis. Well, it looks like Reichardt and Mike Stevens are going to agree to disagree. But that's politics, though. They want to divide us because once we're divided, we're a lot easier to conquer. You can get anything past us all when we're all too busy with our heads down and not looking at what's happening. That's the truth. And that's not just at the presidential level. That's all the way down to your school board and your city council and everything else. Your HOA, you name it. You can pass anything as long as people are keeping their head down and not paying attention to what's going on. And you divide people into one group or another, and they sit and fight amongst each other over hatred towards each other, by those major groups and labels that we put on people. Then what do? No one's watching. Who just made $30 billion in a crypto scam? No one's watching. How about I pardon this person who's going to enrich me and my family a lot more? Or at the city council level, hey, I'll scratch your back on this one. You allow to not have to do any environmental testing, so we can get this new development done, which is going to directly enrich my brother-in-law, and because he have his construction company. I know it's a wetland where there are endangered species, but let's bulldoze it, put it in a parking lot, for this new development or this new business. You do that, and in exchange, I'll do this for you. At the city council level, there are stories all over the United States of things like that happening. I'm waiting for my refund check, Reichardt. Where's my $2,000? Because I've certainly paid a hell of a lot more than $2,000 in tariffs since they all got passed. I want my $2,000 back. Or my extra $1,000 on my tax return. I'll take the three. It ain't going to happen. Just pure economics itself will, can prove out to any layman, in like 5 minutes, that a $2,000 tax return for every single American is, you can't do it. It adds so much to the national debt, and when 4 generations from now, it would take to pay that off. And they've lost their effing minds over 1,500 COVID checks. And we gave away billions more to businesses and banks, during the entire course before then. It's all fleecing of America for tomorrow's gains. What can I do today to enrich myself tomorrow? That's the way it works. So, Gemma, don't feel bad if about the views, and don't ever hold yourself accountable to or think that your value is in the views. I've got videos on my channel, sweetheart, that I spent a month and a half working on, editing, shooting, documenting all of the backstory and everything else that's in the video. And I got like maybe 10 views, if I'm lucky, on those videos. And then other videos just take off like freaking wildfire. I don't understand why. I never have. After all these years, I've never understood why the algorithm will pick up one video and and I'm like 800, 900,000 views on a video when the accompanying video, part 2 of that video, has like 10. And all the links and thumbnails and everything else match up to direct, in screen says, go to this video, that's part 2. Nada. Nothing. It happens. And I don't understand it, and YouTube is never going to explain why. At the same time, I got videos that I did 5 years ago that all of a sudden will just catch traction, like wildfire, and take off, and I'll get like 20,000 views in a month. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it's not great, but it's progress. And in 2025, I had 2 million views, unique views, not total views, unique. That is first time impressions, people viewing my content for the first time. You think I get some subscribers out of that? No. No, maybe 10, 20 out of 2 million new impressions and views. It's insanity. Pennies will probably be worth something in 1,000 years. Speaking of banks, I asked my bank if I could have 4 rolls of 2025 pennies, and they said they had them, but they were told not to get rid of any. Oh, well, I wonder what's going to happen with those people who have YouTube channels that that's all they do is they buy rolls of coins and go through them looking for silver or for air mints, mint airs. Wonder what's going to happen with them. Yeah, but it didn't. 2 million, it didn't do anything for my channel, Mike. And that's a lot of. And I'm not alone in this by far. I know people who have 10, 20 million subscribers right now, and they're seeing a fraction of the views that they used to get. And a large part of it, and the conspiracy. Now I'm going to put air quotes on both sides of that. The conspiracy is that a lot of people believe that YouTube and the algorithm is pushing people more and more and more and suggesting out short videos, kind of because they're going after TikTok and trying to push everything to, well, let's get the interaction, the doom scrolling of videos of 60 seconds or less. That's the conspiracy. That's what the algorithm is pushing, is that over long form content. If you're a long form content creator or a live streamer, you're not seeing the views. I'm not telling you right now. I mean, there's 8 people in this stream right now. I have 0 on Facebook. Well, that's because I don't like Facebook. But what can you do? I can do everything and take every course and spend $1 billion on trying to learn the newest ins and outs of the algorithm. And then a week from then, the algorithm will change again, and the whole thing is all right back down to the bottom. So what do? I just do what I do the best, and then let it go. That's why I'm never going to put my faith in YouTube or it's like putting all your eggs in one basket. If you put all your eggs in one basket and you trip and fall, you've got a lot of broken eggs. Hate TikTok and short videos. I won't watch short videos. The longer, the better for me. Yeah, I understand that, Mike. I do. I truly do. Because the comments, all I get when I do YouTube Shorts videos on anything, and yes, you're going to all see some YouTube Shorts coming up this week. But anyways, every time I do a YouTube Shorts video, if you look at the comment section afterwards, you're going to see 2 or 3 people who, are going to go, thank you for the video. And then after that, all the comments are all like, what about this? What about that? What about this? Why didn't you include this? Why did you ignore this? You can't get everything in a 60-second video. Yeah, and I know you can go up to 1.5 minutes total, but people are not going to watch a 1.5 minute video. You might as well make it a 4-minute video if you're going to make it 1.5 minutes. Love the jewelry, Gemma and Elvis. Reba the night. Gonna get a rope and hang you. There will be plenty of my vids for you to watch. There you go. Taking off, Rock Card, or you Kitty Coo? Either way, I'm about to wrap this up in a couple here myself. Don't forget, tomorrow night, trivia. And before you leave, give us a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. If you're not a subscriber, click on that subscribe button. It's absolutely free to do all of that. I'm not asking you to give me a dime of your money. Just click that thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel because it helps push the content out to more, and you'll be notified of what comes up next. But anyways, though, if you're all taking off, have a great day, and I hope to see you tomorrow night for trivia. John Wayne Gacy is tomorrow night's trivia, and that's at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock Central, 7 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone, 12 midnight for Gemma, and for those in the UK. But anyways, everyone, I hope that you all stay safe and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026. It's only going to get better from here, right? Bye.